The man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students is back in court this morning. Bryan Kohberger faces 4 counts of first-degree murder. He has yet to enter a plea. This is his second appearance in court since being extradited, you'll remember, from Pennsylvania, where he was first arrested. Jean Casares has been watching this. She's joining me right now. Thanks for being here, Jean. What has happened in court?
Very important. We have just learned a date of June 26th is going to be the probable cause hearing. This is a very important hearing because this is where the prosecutor has to put on evidence to show exactly what they have. And then if they have enough, the case will be bound over for trial. But the defense can cross-examine. We may learn more. At this point, we just have the affidavit. And yesterday, I was speaking to a former FBI attorney. 20 years he was with the FBI. He was the co-founder of the Forensic Genetic Genealogy Division of the FBI. And I asked him, isn't there more than what's in this probable cause affidavit? I specifically asked him about DNA at the scene.
It very well could be. I don't know. It didn't indicate whether or not he was wearing gloves. It leads me to believe that if they found DNA on the button off the knife sheath, that he was not wearing gloves. So in that case, very, very likely that he perhaps touched, the door to get in and out of the residence, the door to the other rooms.
So it's things like this that I think we can expect at that probable cause hearing. One more thing today, no bond for the defendant. He will remain in custody.
He will remain behind bars. Okay, Jean, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Joining me now is CNN senior law enforcement analyst Andrew McCabe. He's, of course, the former deputy director of the FBI. Andy, this is one of those appearances in court where Jean sums it up perfectly. He came in, they set a date, and they went along. There's a lot to happen now between now and that probable cause hearing. I want to walk through a little bit of what we do know so far, which is in that affidavit, the most notable pieces of evidence that we have from the probable cause affidavit, Andy. One of the things is phone records indicating that Kohberger's phone was near the murder victim's residence at least 12 times between June of 2022 to around the time of the arrest. How is that helpful?
Well, it's a fascinating fact for us, Kate, because this is really the only thing in the affidavit that even hints at a connection before the homicide between Kohberger and these victims. We still don't have any sense of what his motivation might have been, how he became focused on this house and or these people. But the fact that he was in the area, his phone puts him in the area of the house on 12 occasions prior to the homicide, is a pretty strong confirmation that long before the murders, he was already focused on this residence, and like I said before, and or focused on the occupants of that house. So it's our first effort to build out what might have been happening in the lead up to the homicide.
But then there is that knife sheath. I've been curious to ask you, I don't know if you find it more important, less important than the phone records. This knife sheath that was found at the scene laying on the bed next to one of the victims. And investigators say that DNA testing linked the sheath to DNA found in the trash at Kohberger's parents' home. So essentially linking the sheath to Bryan Kohberger himself. That seems pretty important.
It is absolutely critical. It's by far the most important piece of evidence in this case so far. Even assume you had all the phone records you have, puts him in the area, shows him moving back and forth, likely between his residence and the homicide scene on the night of the murders. None of that actually puts him in the house. The DNA puts him not just in the house, but literally in the bed where two victims were found. So it's absolutely the most critical piece of evidence. It's possible that DNA got placed on the button of the knife sheath before the homicide, maybe as he was picking up his things and preparing to go that night before he had put his gloves on. So again, it gives you a piece of DNA that you might not have otherwise collected from the crime scene if he was smart enough to wear gloves during the commission of the crime. So, and then of course, it's the familial DNA recovered from the garbage in the Pennsylvania area by the parents' house that actually gives us a pretty good identification that the DNA belongs, in fact, to Kohberger.
Where or what do you think at the moment, there's so much to learn, of course, but is the most biggest outstanding question that the defense could exploit to push back on some of this evidence that we've just laid out?
You know, what we know so far, which I'm sure is far less than what the investigators know, it already presents a pretty damning case. The first hurdle, as we've just been talking about, is always putting the defendant at the scene of the crime. The DNA clearly does that. Then you have all that other supporting information about the vehicle on surveillance, the movement of his cell phone in the period before the homicide, and then, of course, the absence of his cell phone pinging the towers during the homicide, but then he shows up the next morning before the crime is even reported to the police. All that stuff is I think, very persuasive. It's likely that the investigators have collected additional evidence after the arrest because they've executed search warrants at his residence, his parents' residence, and also in his car. I think the thing that we're looking for now is whether any of those search warrants, maybe on electronic devices or email accounts, conclusively show us how and why he began targeting those poor people.
So much to learn. Really appreciate it. Now we have a probable cause hearing that they have set the date for. Really appreciate it and good to see you. Thank you.